Water.
Water.
Good. All right. Good morning. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. It's Tuesday, the 11th day of February 2020. I'd like to call the Weber County Commission meeting for that date to order. Appreciate everybody being here. We're going to start off this morning with an invocation from Sean Wilkinson, Pledge of Allegiance by Bill Ross. Welcome, gentlemen. And then we'll have the thought of the day by Commissioner Harvey. Sean.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for so many blessings that we enjoy here in this community. We're grateful for the beautiful surroundings that we have, for the mountains, and for all of the good things in our lives. At this time, we ask that in our local and national politics that we may have civility and kindness, that we can all do our part to make sure that that good feelings prevail, and that we are open to each other, and again, that we may be kind in the things we say and in the way that we act. And again, we thank thee for all of the blessings that we enjoy, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Please rise and pledge allegiance. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Harvey, thought of the day.
Thank you, Chair Frohr. The balance between confidence and humility, is best learned through extensive experience and mistakes. I've learned that, I used to say when I was doing a lot of skiing that if I wasn't pushing myself hard enough to fall down, I really wasn't progressing. I just was having a nice leisurely day, but the harder I skied, if I didn't fall once or twice, I really wasn't pushing myself to improve. Now, while I wouldn't recommend that, especially in that sport, because that can become painful, you learn rather quickly, especially as it starts to hurt, that making mistakes aren't the funnest things, but especially in business, you need to push yourself, and I think that's true here. I recently had a conversation with one of our directors of our public facilities, and as they continually try to retool and to do better with their programs, we ask them to be a little aggressive, certainly as it relates to doing better with customer service and try new things. And, mistakes are going to be made, commissioners, but I think if you learn from those mistakes, it can be very powerful. So I'll stop there because I've got a lot more to say with there, but I think it's okay to make mistakes. Just learn from them.
That's great. Appreciate that. I think that's very true. Great thought. Appreciate that. Let's go to public comments. And I understand we have a presentation from Lynn Carter, who's going to give us a presentation on the Ogden Botanical Gardens related to USU. Thank you for being here. Time's yours.
Thank you.
Lynn?
You have 37 minutes.
What if I take it? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Lynn Carter here on behalf of the Utah State University Weber County Extension and the Ogden Botanical Gardens. I want to share my perspective and extend my appreciation for your support of the USU Extension and the unique Ogden Garden. With me today is Helen Muntz, the horticultural agent, Utah State University Weber Morgan County Extension. I appreciate Helen. She asked me to do this.
Lynn, will you pull that mic down
Yeah,
just a
can you
little
Certainly.
more?
Hold that a little
Is
closer.
that better?
That's better,
Sorry.
much better, much better.
I appreciate Helen's asking me to do this. It was a stretch for me. As a kid, do you remember being asked to go to the yard on a blistering hot Utah summer day and weed the garden? Or drag a water hose with a single sprinkler from place to place to water a huge yard? To that add mowing the lawn and using hand clippers to trim the edges of the lawn bordering the driveway, a fence line, and a house. These were years before ground cloths, automatic sprinkler systems, and string trimmers. But these were the years that I learned to love working in the yard, largely because of my dad. When the work was finished, Dad would ask me to step back and look at what I had accomplished. He said, the yard would say thank you. Maybe it was his trick he used to keep me working and learning. But to this day, in my yard or volunteering in the Ogden Garden, I stand back and still receive thanks and satisfaction for my efforts by viewing what I accomplished. Before I retired from a career in clinical chemistry in 2017, I decided to heed sage advice not to retire from something, but rather to something. I decided to apply to the Utah State University Master Gardener Volunteering Training Program. It was inexpensive, local, and comprehensive. It included both classroom and hands-on field training provided by a degreed USU Extension instructor. After 6 months of classroom training and lab work, the practical training began with 40 hours of supervised volunteer garden projects. The Master Gardener Volunteer Training Program was perfect for me. Presently, I am serving as a Master Gardener docent at the Ogden Botanical Gardens, where I share what I've learned with local gardeners, conduct tours of the garden, and work with teams of like-minded people to design, plant, and maintain those gardens. The pay I receive is exceptional. 2 quick examples from last summer. While tending a garden bed, I observed a photo shoot of a newborn and her parents posed among the flowers in the cottage garden. When the shoot was completed, the photographer and parents stopped where I was working and said, "Thank you. Thank you for the work you do here. This is a beautiful place for pictures." Another came when a lovely woman walking her fuzzy dog stopped me in the rose garden and said that she walked there with her pup every morning, spring through fall. She said being in these beautiful gardens was the best part of every day, and she thanked me. Many years have passed since I worked with my dad in our yard. Still, as a volunteer in the garden, the look back brings a thank you from the garden itself, and even better, sometimes from someone who's visiting there. It happens just as Dad said it would. It wasn't a trick, after all. It's more of a small, garden-grown miracle. Thank you for your continued support of the garden, the Utah State Extension, and the many Ogden Botanical Garden patrons. We appreciate your help.
Thank you for being here. Commissioners, comments?
Lynn, thanks so much for your service and your example. You know, there are a lot of wonderful stories that can be learned in many of the things that have been written in our past about gardening as it relates to what you've just said, as well as grafting and other things and how it applies to life. And I think holding on to those gives you time to think and reflect, and especially there are so many people who tell us how beautiful those Ogden Botanical Gardens are. Remembering back to when it was bare ground to what it's become now, it's used extensively for a variety of different things, including weddings, but also just places or times for people to go and meditate or reflect. And you've made that in part a wonderful place to be, and so I want you to know that I appreciate it, and I appreciate you Lynn was at arm's reach, a neighbor, so to speak. Once removed, maybe, but it's always been a good example, one who they've done well by their neighbors as well. And so I appreciate yours and Stephen's example and who you've been. It was a marked place in my life, and I just want to tell you that personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins.
Yeah, Commissioner Farrar, Chair Farrar. How much do we give those botanical gardens every year?
Well, that comes out of the USU extension. It could probably be answered by our director. They're better than me.
Oh, actually, I think we have a allocation of funds we give right directly to those gardens.
It's actually for Helen's salary because she helps
Yep.
to make sure that all of the maintenance happens there.
And how much is that?
35,000.
Yeah, that's right.
35,000, a little bit more than
That, and that goes to salary, right?
that. Correct.
Yep.
To help her.
Well, the reason I question that is we this year we debated whether to continue that or not. That's not part of Weber County, you know, and now those gardens are built and done and up and running. We really wonder whether we have a responsibility to maintain that 35,000. Could you speak to that? One of you?
Naomi, or either one of you.
Yeah, well, so.
Come to the mic
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
would.
If you wouldn't mind coming up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my understanding was that 35 was actually a agreement with Ogden City, so it may be some support that way. I'm not sure, Naomi might have to clarify that a little bit. We have basically 2 seasonal gardeners, and we keep a garden manager there, so that when I'm over 2 counties and the gardens, so then when I'm not around, we know we have someone there who's working with the city and trying to schedule everything that's going on there as far, in terms of weddings and the classes and things that we do. So that's kind of part of where that goes into when we talk about salary, to have those seasonal gardeners help with maintenance. The bulk of it is the volunteers. So we have a rigorous Master Gardener program that Lynn spoke of to try and give them the training and the tools that they need to be able to help maintain these gardens and help with the classes and other community events and stuff like that. Did that help?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So the city actually owns the gardens, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is a city park.
right. It is a city park.
Yes.
And that's, if you remember when we had this discussion, that was the very question we had, is if it's a city park and they own it, then why, and, to get it started and everything, I have no problem with the fact that we gave some money to that. But I'm wondering why we maintain that as a county, because it's a city park. And so that's the question. So really, this is a question that needs to be dealt with the city, not with you folks. And I understand that.
Right, and it's mostly an agreement. So we have USU presently owns the education building out there. The city coordinates with when they schedule weddings and stuff for the
Right.
pavilions and things like that. But we do all the mowing, we do all the planting and garden maintenance. They'll do the the parkway. So there's the parkway that goes right by with
Right.
lots of joggers and things. So they do some maintenance there, but a lot of it falls on USU, and it's just kind of an agreement from the beginning. But yeah, I've been here 3 years now, and I'm still trying to answer that question a little bit. So I'm happy to help clarify as best I can and go back to the director of both the OBG and the USU BC, who currently I'm trying to fill his role here in Ogden, but he might be good. Jerry Goodspeed, you probably have met him, but he might be helpful as well to answer some of those questions.
It would be well to get a report directly from Jerry. I know Jerry's been here for decades now, at least 20 years, and he'll have some history on this, and I think it would be good. I would appreciate being updated, but and some of this information would be introduced, especially because of, I think it'd be great to get Jerry involved and get some history there, but that'd be great.
Great. So I did try and delve into this because.
Go ahead.
And so I know that when the building was originally created, it was a donation from someone in the community. And it was given to USU, but it's a little bit awkward because it's given to USU with no funding to continue to maintain it.
Right.
And so it was given on public property there for the city. But I think from the very beginning, it's been a question of who's going to maintain it. And my understanding, you know, we were just kind of told for USU, stay out of it, it's between the county and the city. But I do think recently there was a conversation, we need to pull up that original agreement and revisit that, because now there's new players. Maybe, you know, there would be some better discussion at this point, because I think that that was never really clarified from the beginning of who's supposed to really maintain that. It makes sense to me it would be the city because it's city property,
Right.
but I think that they didn't want to deal with it, and of course the county doesn't want to deal with it. The problem is it was given as a gift from a donor. So I think at this point we just don't want the building to become dilapidated and become an eyesore, because that looks bad on everybody. So I'm not sure how we want to delve into that, but I know that we had looked it up. I was working with Jennifer Graham to look into this, and my understanding is we had found the agreement, but I haven't seen it yet. And I think a discussion needs to be made so we can decide how to move forward with that property.
And I think that's great, Naomi. Since, you know, USU Extension's under my portfolio, I think we should look at those original contracts, and then we can get back with, you know, work session or with the other commissioners and update them. You know, I can say personally, this is a true gem for whether it's Ogden City or Weber County. I run that trail quite a bit through the summer and detour on occasion into the rose gardens and talk to a number of the people up there that are volunteers that are trained by your master gardeners. I tell you, the service that we get from those people, and if you go through that parking lot on any given summer morning, there's a lot of people with out-of-state license plates from all over. So this is a true draw that, in my opinion, needs to continue. I think it's just a matter of us being comfortable with the agreement that we have with Ogden City and make sure that we all agree on the future. But in my opinion, that's something that we definitely, between USU, Ogden City, and Weber County, we need to ensure that this continues. Because
Yeah,
it's a true gem, and the volunteers out there, the people that run it, do a magnificent job. I mean, if you haven't been in the rose garden out there, when those roses are in bloom, it's really breathtaking to see what they do.
Lynn, how many rose bushes do we have now do you tend to? Do you know the number? Used to be 99. Wow.
It's around 300.
Around 300.
Yeah.
Might be a little.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you know, I appreciate the roses. My mother loved roses. She was a gardener. I spent a lot of time, and every time I go through that, I think of her, and I know that she appreciates. She went through there a few years ago before she died, and was still amazed at the variety of roses and how well cared they are. So it's a great thing you do for the city and the county. And, you know, I think we just work out the details, Commissioner Jenkins.
Sure, but I want to look at it.
So,
Sure, I think that's
Jennifer,
wise.
I'd love to see that agreement.
Did you ever look at that? Did you ever find it? I know it was being dug up, but.
Yeah, I think Phil found it.
Okay.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sean.
if we could get copies, that'd be great. Is that all?
That's it.
I just wanted to mention too, so my understanding is that the county gives a certain portion and then the city gives a certain portion, and that funding was worked together for someone like Helen to have volunteers and whatnot so we can continue to maintain that property. So that's how that funding is being used, just so that you're aware.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Great, thank you for that explanation. Okay, we're still in the public comment section of our agenda. Anybody else would like to come forward and make a comment at this time, please come forward. And please give us your name and address, if you wouldn't mind.
Jill Hipwell, 585 South, 3600 West, out in West Weber. And I think this is where I need to bring this up.
Welcome.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah.
First, I need to ask a question. Has the Prude chapter been rewritten It was brought up in 2014. I know there's been a few amendments, but has it actually been rewritten?
The PRUD,
Uh-huh.
Sean?
Sean? I think, Rick, do you know that? I think, Rick, why don't you come up and answer
It'll take
that?
care of my next question if it has been.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
The PRUD section has not been rewritten. There was some direction given by the previous county commission to look at making the PRUD an overlay zone, but that has been put on hold. But the current PRUD section is what was in place at that time.
That's where I was going with this. Just wanted to make sure it didn't go through. Okay, in that PRUD overlay zone, I have a copy of the front page, and it's, I think Mr. Ewart, is that how you say his last name? Charles. I know it's Charles. He's the one that kind of did it. And some of the key points he put in it was, Weber County's PRUD ordinance contains a carte blanche entitlement for any standard of any part of the land use code to be waived or modified for any PRUD with or without objective reason. Whether by intent or by misunderstanding of the purpose and origination of the administrative PRUD type ordinance, Weber County has allowed the current PRUD ordinance to be applied purely as a mechanism for waiving other stricter requirements instead of a use of receiving better planned developments. By the very nature of the flexibility of the current PRUD code, nearly any decision made under this level of administrative discretion, whether for or against an applicant's proposal, can at least be construed to be arbitrary, if not also capricious, since it relies on a person's perception of what is or is not desirable and harmonious, as opposed to objective review criteria. I know it's gone to legislative now rather than administrative, but he actually put at the bottom of this that if the county desires it to remain a legislative decision, then the chapter should be rewritten with more objective criteria to remove the potential of the arbitrary decision making. I do know that this passed the Ogden Valley Planning Commission approved this overlay zone in the 2018, and then so did also Weber County. I'm in Western Weber County. I'm just curious why it got tabled after that, because I do believe there needs to be some improvement in that PRUD zone.
Rick, do you want to explain why
I should
that's currently on hold?
So the current PRUD is an administrative review. It does come before you because it's a conditional use. The legislative portion that Ms. Hipwell is talking about, it was put on hold because the commission at that time felt like it's taking away some of the development rights from developers. And so to make it a legislative item, then you have to go through that process and you take away the administrative tool that developers have. And so it makes it more restrictive and more difficult for development to happen. And so it was put on hold because they didn't feel like development should be impacted, and to reduce the possibility for future development having to go through the legislative body.
So it never did make it to legislative?
Correct. No. No. No.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, but I still think it is something that we need to review at one point. I do believe there's, as how I have actually heard it, there's some loopholes and such. I would need to review it again because it has been a while since I've been over it. One portion of that, though, that I think is a necessity for all subdivision parts, it's actually to do with streets. At least 2 points of access into a development is required if it contains more than 30 residents or otherwise required by the local fire emergency service authority. Per the 2015 International Fire Code, Appendix D, 2 approved fire access roads are required if there are more than 30 one or two family home developments. But there is an exception if they've all got fire suppression systems. What if it's not a fire that happens out there? I personally believe that that needs to be put into, that should be a stipulation no matter what, that if there's over 30 homes, there should be another access. That's a scary thought, to not have a way out if something's going on. And so I don't even know where you'd go with that. I don't know if there's someone I need to talk to maybe try and get that implemented.
Well, you know what I would suggest is that you get a hold of the chair of the West Weber County Planning Commission or any of the members, and obviously you have the right to attend one of those hearings, one of those meetings.
Okay.
When they have public, and I'd give your input to the planning commission.
Okay.
And then what they would do is if they feel this necessitates a change, they would come before us through Mr. Grover, and they could propose an ordinance change to that particular zone.
Okay, thank you so much.
So, but yeah, I would start with the planning commission. That's really the people we depend on to make the decisions.
Okay.
And make recommendations to us.
All right, okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for being here. Additional public comments. We appreciate the involvement. Any comments from commissioners before we move on? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Hold on for you. You know me. Okay.
Welcome.
Hey, how you doing? Ralph Price, 636 6th Street. How you doing, Commissioners? Hillbilly, where are you going? Okay, I just got to know that for you'll have an interest in this. You know that how much about involved I am with Agape with homelessness and people with diverse situations and everything. I'm just appalled to know and find out this last week and everything that through the city there has been some things put into to play, and that Lauren, the fantastic work she's doing over at the Lantern House, and you're on the board, and
Correct.
and so you know that how important that is in functioning as we do our work to be able to try to make the situation better. Well, we're now talking with and got so that Taggart out at OTEC and everything is giving scholarships, so zero income. So we're making steps and strides towards putting in 51 families we've put into houses in the last month and a half. But they all started with the overflow at the Lantern House. It is such a key in us being able to do our work that we do. I'm out at 4:30 in the morning till 9 every morning. I'm out from 5 o'clock till 2 in the morning every night, working in the streets and working the things, making sure there's a chance for people to be able to have a chance to be able to have coverings and having staying warm, being able to take steps to put their lives back together. We got people coming out of prison jails and that are now back to being productive members of society. But they have children that they've fought for, they've got back, and they've changed their lives. And these kids, 17 of my kids that are in 87 that we've put back into school are on the honor rolls and national honor societies. I've got 15 that are on the dean's list and stuff like this. These people are looking to change and change the prodigy behind them. And it starts with the overflow and the chance to be able to have somebody believing in them, somebody they can trust, and belief in themselves, so that they will go ahead and take the steps necessary to correct the mental health, the social problems, and the substance abuse problems that they have had to deal with. Now, us as people that are involved with them on a daily basis and gain their trust so that they listen to us, we have to be able to have concrete things that we can say, okay, here, this is how we start, and how we go. Yes, it may not be an apartment. Yes, it may not be. It may only be the floor of the kitchen area at the Lantern House. They're kind enough to be able to have, and we are serving Morgan, Weber, and Davis County. And then for them to be able to say in the middle of winter here that as March 1st we're going to close down, that we can't have that facility. We had 90 people at the day before yesterday staying at the Lantern House and on that floor and everything, 30 of them kids and everything. I don't see how in any shape or form that you can come to a conclusion that as of March 1st, we're going to take that space away from us so that 90 people and 30 of them kids, be able to be back out on the streets. We've worked too hard along the riverbank law, going all the way to Slatersville and stuff. You guys, and I know that Hillbilly here, Jenkins, I call Hillbilly Scott Jenkins. But anyway, he heads up the commission and everything with all of us nonprofits. We're doing great work. We're out there beating our bush. That's our leader right there. I'm here today because I'm appalled that I'm not a liar. And I don't want you guys, or the city, but I want your influence upon the city to be able to change this. If we want to look to go ahead and take away that space and everything, it has to be at a reasonable time. On the national news as well as our local news, they're telling people not to go outside, not to go out and not to go to school, not to go to work. If you can work, we're talking about putting these people out in the middle of the night. In this, it was 17 degrees last night. How do I know I was out there? And that's people, and I got bus drivers that talk to me, and it's snowing and everything. I don't see how you're out here. I said, the people live out here. I'm trying to get them in. And that's, I can be out here for a few hours. I go to my nice warm apartment, and I turn the heat up. And that's, they want to take away that space. It is critical to us that are on the ground out here doing the work we're doing and the changes that are being made. We are beating Salt Lake County. Weber County's beating Salt Lake County. They're getting all the stuff out there. I'm trying to fight that they give some of the stuff to us in Weber County here. But with the little resources that we do have here, we are making a difference. We've gone from 39 to 81% of the people we were working with we're putting into transition in their lives so that they can go to school and they can certify. They can have careers, not just piecemeal jobs. But to take away what they're talking about their home, I don't know one of you guys or one of the city council I'll be talking to later tonight and everything that will leave their animal and their pet outside at night, more or less put people out there. So I am here today, and I'm just asking you that any influence that you have, that you help us. You help the people that are out here like myself and others. Scott, what you've got going with all the group right here. We cannot close those doors March 1st. It has to, if you want to revisit that in May, June, or July, when we can put up a tent or something like this, and it'd be okay, and it's reasonable, but on a humanitarian purpose. We've got to find a way that in 2 weeks, those doors do not close. And as I've already talked with contractors, Big D and different ones, Layton Construction, whatever we got to do, we're going to find a way to do it, but we need to keep those doors open. And that's the only reason that we have the success that we have. We have Mortensen and Taggart and these people at the colleges willing to open up education is because we started with the overflow session at the Lantern House. We got to keep that. And whatever you can do, I implore you, please back up, and you're on the board, so you know the importance of that. And we need that. We need that. You guys know how committed I am to this, and that Lauren is, and all of us that are out here and doing the groundwork, and we work with these individuals. We help to establish again self-esteem in themselves and a desire for their prodigy to succeed, for them to succeed, to them to put in the work to come out of mental health, come out of substance abuse and stuff, and be able to have something. But it starts with what little things we can give them. We don't want them along the riverbank. We got them in for you. Don't take that away from us. March 1st is they're talking about closing those doors. Let's get that moved back to a reasonable time when it's better inclined with the weather and stuff. And thank you, Scott, for all the work you do, Harvey, and Victoria for helping us, okay?
Thanks, Ralph. I can tell you this, the Lantern House Board is very much aware of the issue you brought up. We're working with Ogden City, the powers to be. We're working on some additional funding to cure this for the long term, not just the short term. There's a lot of people involved with that decision, and hopefully we can make the decision to keep those doors open for at least a period of time what's more conducive to outside weather.
I applaud you for that, and I applaud you for the long-term solution, but I want you to know I represent the ones that were out here on the ground, and we need those doors not to close in 2 ways. We've given our word, we've given our dedication, we've given our time. I've been in and out of the hospital 4 or 5 times and everything, because you know the extent of what I have going on with me. But I have a commitment, and I have given my word to these people. They trust me. I was walking with Mayor Caldwell, and I was working with 3 of the city councilmen. They say, "You're like a superstar out here." No, I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a friend. I'm somebody they can believe in, somebody they know. I'm in here, and this is a city issue, but I'm talking to the county because those doors cannot close. We need to have those doors open. We're not talking about floor space. We're not talking about mats and such. We're talking about people. We're talking about children. And that's, your dog can't be outside. These people can't either. Keep those doors open for us."
Ralph, we appreciate your dedication, your interest in this.
Thanks, Ralph.
You do a great job for the community. Additional comments from the public? You know, we've had pretty good public participation today, commissioners. It's good.
Yes.
Additional comments from the commissioners before we move ahead?
So, Gage, you say the board, the Lantern House, is on top of this?
We're looking for a negotiated agreement with Ogden City, basically the fire department, to make sure we can maintain at least the access. It's a fire issue problem.
Is it?
Yeah.
So you'll
County took those warehouses, and they're using even the warehouses.
you'll keep us abreast of that?
Yeah, I think I've got to check the next board meeting, but it should be next Wednesday or the Wednesday after. Yeah.
Okay.
The last report I had from the director was that he felt that he was getting real close to an agreement with Ogden City Fire.
Right.
And State Fire.
Good.
So I'm hopeful. Ralph, we'll keep you posted. Commissioners will keep you posted on that as we move
Thanks for
forward.
caring, Ralph.
You know I'll be on you.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you caring, but I'm going to tell you this. You need to slow down that wheelchair when you're moving around here. You're going a little too quick.
Long as you start
Holy mackerel.
walking slower, too.
Yeah, you wheel around pretty good with that, so I'm not getting in your way, I know that. Okay, Commissioners, no other public comments, nobody coming forward. Then I move on to consent items on our agenda. And that would be Agenda F, consent items. Request for approval of warrants number 1, that would be number 2412 through 2424, and 447168 through 447380 in the amount of $489,861.91. Number 2, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $161,603.22. 3, request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on February 4th, 2020. Number 4, request for approval of the ACH payment to U.S. Bank in the amount of $254,473.66. 5, request for approval of new business license. 6, request for approval of new beer licenses. 7, request for approval of retirement agreement by and between Weber County and Ralph Brooks. Number 8, request for approval of the grant extension by and between Weber County and the Utah Department of Workforce Services for the extension of funding for the Weber County ICANN program, serving families experiencing intergenerational poverty through June 30, 2020. That's our consent items. Questions, Commissioners, before I go to Ricky?
I have something after Ricky.
Okay.
The question I have, Commissioner, you know, I've always gone through the warrants and the purchase orders, but when you look at this a U.S. Bank statement on the ACH payments, you know, it's hard to give oversight on that. The first statement here's for $982, and you know, it's small, and they're all small purchases, so you don't worry about that too much. But when you get to the second one, then I see things like Biz Furniture and DLT Solutions, and you know, that's $18,000, and Webstaurant Store for $16,000. Well, I don't know how to give oversight to that. How do we check those to make sure those are appropriate? Because they go around the normal purchasing, and it just goes on one of our cards. So how do I know, Ricky, if those are appropriate or not?
Every P-card purchase has to be reported on a P-card log, and that is submitted monthly up to the P-card holder's supervisor, and elected officials have them. Those are all reviewed by me, and my P-card log is reviewed by our county attorney. So those are done at a supervisor level. In addition to that, we have an audit program where we go and look at the P-card logs. Or especially, we look at all P-card logs for higher risk individuals who may have not had compliance in the past. So we go and do that, but we also audit on a sample basis everybody's P-cards.
No, this is kind of tough. There's 41 pages of P-cards, and this is down. This is a low month. Normally, it's considerably more than this. And that's just really hard to review that and get a feel for what's happening there.
We do rely on the supervisors and managers to take a close look at the P-card transactions to make sure they're authorized. And we do have purchase limits on various P-cards. Only certain individuals have a higher limit that could purchase something larger, or $10,000 per month. You can seek out temporary increases working through the purchasing office or department to get those if in a special unusual circumstance. But generally, the larger purchases will be working with the purchasing division to make sure that all of the proper reviews are being done, obtaining bids and quotes.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
So when I was out at the Golden Spike, I think my limit per month was $2,000, and I was always very careful because I knew that there was, I had Jennifer Graham making sure that every purchase was qualified. For me, Commissioner Jenkins, having been involved in this for a number of years now with this, it really comes down to the oversight that I use currently is confidence in the people we hire. I have confidence, and I can only speak to the divisions that are in my portfolio, which would be the attorneys and the Culture, Parks, and Recreation, but I have tremendous confidence in the way they run their budgets that we approve. I have confidence in the way they're purchasing, and they watch every dollar. I learned of a situation this morning where there was quite an ordeal over 75 cents because a purchase came through for 75 cents and they wanted accountability for that 75 cents. And so when we look at these and we can't see the detail in the smaller amounts we don't worry about as much, I know that in this portfolio they worry about even 75 cents, and I'm comfortable with that. If there's another situation that should come up where there is cause for mistrust, then we deal with that through our human resource department, not through the P card. So that's my explanation with regards to my portfolio on this particular item. Ricky, I know they do arbitrary audits. I had that happen to me a lot by purchasing. Even after Jennifer and those, I'd get those come back frequently. Hey, listen, what about this, or who was involved in this? And so it's very detailed. And I was very comfortable, Ricky, with what happened there. But I respect very much that Commissioner Jenkins is wanting to get into the detail of this, because the same way these purchases come through on this card, and the cumulative amount through the whole county is reflected in that $254,000 for this last month of those payments. That's $50 here and $130 there and maybe $1,000 there. And again, those bigger purchases that are made on the P card above $2,000 are usually because it's through the purchasing agent. You know, Jason Horn or those folks, they're the ones that Ricky has decided to increase those limits. But if I were to ask any other purchases, I don't think anybody in our division has anything that they could do over $5,000. They go through procurement, they go through the bid process, and just accumulation of a bunch of smaller charges for little things, you know, when they pay an office supply thing, or you know, supplies, or Band-Aids, or a million different things that would be out there. You know, a yard trimmer or something that would be simple. That's just so you know that's how I justify it when I'm looking at these every month.
Yeah, thank you for that. Commissioner
So,
Jenkins?
That's my very question. You just made a statement that these all go through the bid process, and I would say, how do you know that? You don't know that.
Excuse me, now wait a second. I don't think we bid out every pencil. But I do know that the bigger items are bid because we used to do it. I was asked by Miss Graham, did you get 3 bids before you made that purchase? So I think it's the effectiveness of the supervisor. So I don't know that. There, you're right. But
Okay.
I know that it has to do with the effectiveness of the supervisor.
That's the point. And when they put it through on the P card, it takes our ability to give oversight, and it kind of takes it away from us.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes.
I can give you an example. For the golf tournament last year, I ordered some balls, and it was a sponsor, so we didn't actually pay for it. But after they gave us the money to pay for the balls, the sponsor, I bought the balls, and Jason called me and said, did you get a bid for this? So our P cards are being watched by, starting with you looking at my P card, and then Candace doing the audit, and Jason reviewing as well. I feel like it's being covered on every
We're being covered, huh? Well, I sit here and look at one. I just kind of thumbed down through here, and I stopped on one I didn't understand. And it says here UDOH, so I assume that's Utah Department of Health. And it says Bureau Manager Media Services, Salt Lake City, $1,777. Well, Department of Health, I have no idea. I haven't got a clue what that item is for $1,777. And I'd probably be willing to bet you right now that Jason doesn't have a clue of what that is.
Where is it?
Well, we
He's
can get
not
a hold
here.
of, we can get a hold of Brian Barron and.
Well, no, we don't have to. I'm kind of digging down here a little bit on a principle. And this goes back to what Shelley was saying. And the principle is, on our P cards, you know, it was only a few months ago that our P cards hit an all-time high. I don't know what it was, don't remember what it was, but I remember it was, wow, look at that. And I don't know as our level of scrutiny on P cards is as high as it is on regular purchases, because we go over the regular purchases, you know, they come right in.
Every line
Yeah,
item.
and we sit and review each one of those line items. But here, I got 41 pages, and as it's listed, many of them are undescribable. Here's one for $10 for Del Taco, and Arby's, and Subway. So somebody's eating on the county out there. And I'm assuming that they're all okay, but you don't know. So is there any better way to review these? I guess that's what I'm asking.
I will get with Jason and Scott and make sure that we're comfortable with the process and that we fully understand it, and then we'll come back to you and explain.
No, I think that's really good, Ricky, that we understand the process. That's really what I'm asking here, because this seems to go around our normal process here. And when you start going through these, it's so hard to identify some of these that it's tough.
Yeah, I'm making a note right now, and we'll.
Thank you, sir.
So, Ricky, since you brought that up, on these P cards, don't they require some type of supervisor approval at some point?
After the fact.
Yeah,
once
after the
P
fact,
card-
right.
And the individual has to print, they don't just make up the statement, say, in Word or Excel. They have to print it from the bank and perform the reallocations on the bank system themselves. So it's very difficult for them to provide a false report that would get tagged right away.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, I haven't signed a lot of these, but the ones I have, you know, have had a receipt attached to it. It had the purpose of the meeting, the expenditure. So I'm assuming if the supervisor is taking the time to review that, they can be obviously acknowledged or questioned at that point in time. So I'd agree with Commissioner Harvey that we depend on our supervisors, our managers, to make the determination about how important it is to this county to make sure we have transparency using taxpayer dollars. And but yeah, I'd appreciate you getting with Jason. Commissioner Jenkins, I appreciate you bringing that up. Is there any immediate concerns you would have on any of those charges that you'd have a reason to question them being authorized or not?
No, there aren't. It's just this is the first time I've tried to dig down into them. And you know, it's like Weber Human Services. When you try to dig down in theirs, their expenses are almost impossible to dig down into and get a handle on. Well, I sit here and look at this, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 charges in a row, 7 charges for Costco. Well, I have no idea what these charges are. And when you say, well, a supervisor has approved those apparently, well, maybe a supervisor and they're one of the people they employ said, let's go out and buy furniture at Costco. I mean, I don't know what it is. You see what I mean?
So, I might have a hunch on that one. I don't know who that particular card is, but we buy things from Costco and Sam's Club all the time. They're ancillary food items and things like that when they stock up for concession stands and other things like that. Now, I'm not certain on those exact charges, but I have the faith in that Jennifer's auditing or Duncan's auditing those charges that are done from our concessions department.
Well, let's put it this way. I just want to review the process
I
of why
love it.
we
This
use
is
those
great.
cards.
I
think
you know what?
Ricky's right on.
I think listen, and I'm coming from a history of 26 years, but I think it's refreshing to have a fresh set of eyes to say, is there a better way? I'm not pushing back on this at all.
Okay,
I'm
that's
just
great.
saying, I'm just trying to use some history there. I think it's great. A new, fresh set of eyes at this. If there's a better way to do this, I trust the business acumen of Commissioner Jenkins and Commissioner Frohr. If there's a better way to do it, and especially more efficient way to do it, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, Rick, if you get back to us, I would agree with that 100%. Never
that.
hurts to review our policies to make sure that we don't need to tighten them up somewhat. You know, there's an old saying that I used in the Capitol a lot, which was trust but verify. And I think that's what we're doing. We have to trust our supervisors, but then we want to verify that what they're doing is proper. So I think that's what Commissioner Jenkins is saying. Let's just verify, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the three of our responsibilities, is to make sure that this county is being run in an efficient manner, and that would go especially with the taxpayer dollars going out for Weber County services. So anyway, thank you for that discussion. Commissioner Jenkins, anything else?
I'd make a motion to approve the consent items.
We have a motion to approve.
Second, but with a comment. On the consent items, I would feel remiss if I didn't do this. As a young boy and growing up in far corner over there in the terrace by the big silver water tank.
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah. There was always a guy that, when I went to the Bruce Musgrave ballpark, was always helping young boys learn how to play baseball. And his name was Gus Brooks. Well, those things, he helped me through my whole baseball youth. And later on, his son called me, and Gus had just retired from Questar. And he was in his 50s and said, Harv, I'm going to get a little personal here, but he says, my dad's retired and he's driving my mom crazy. He needs to go back to work. Can you help me? And we hired him out at the Golden Spike Arena. It was the best thing that ever happened for their marriage. Gus kept working. But a guy that was in his 50s and still had a lot of great work knowledge, helped the Golden Spike for years and years and years, and he's been out there for 20-something years. Gus's health has started to decline, and you know, he was walking around carrying a dolly, oxygen dolly. But he's hopping in the tractors, and he was probably the hardest worker. He was consistent. When everybody else would take a break, Gus was still out cleaning stalls and shoveling and doing things. And now it's time for him to retire. It's here at number 7 is Ralph Brooks, and I just wanted to publicly tell Ralph, thank you for being an example through my whole life. On the baseball field and also out in the stalls at the Golden Spike. You're a dear friend. I wish you and your family great, and it's a retirement agreement, so I'm a little melancholy. I don't have a lot of boyhood heroes like Ralph left. But since his name was here and I've got this privilege right now, I wanted to use it, so thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for those comments. Sure. Ricky, before I place a motion, did you want to give any details on the warrants?
Yeah, we had 13 purchase orders this week for $162,000. 62% of that, or $100,000, is for the library, and that's e-media open order for the year. 16%, or $25,000, was for the transfer station, and that's tires for the tipping floor. 11%, or $18,000, was for IT, and that was primarily for switches for the sheriff's office. As far as checks, we issued 226 checks this week for $490,000. A bunch of smaller amounts. 17%, or $83,000, was for the jail, and that went toward food, utilities, and building maintenance. 15%, or $73,000, was escrow release, primarily to Sunset Equestrian. And then 9%, $46,000, was for the ice sheet, which covered utilities and a boiler replacement. 7%, or $33,000, is for the conference center, and that was primarily for their ticketing system, as well as some ragtime talent expense. And then 2 items at 6%, or $30,000, dispatch 911 for telephone service and equipment, and then the library, and that went towards utilities, materials, and building maintenance.
Thank you. Ricky, questions from any of the discussion? Randy? or Ricky just had before we move on? Okay, all those in favor of the consent items as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Consented items have been approved. Let's move on to action items G. 1, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Chapman Music, Inc. for the 2020 Valentine Dinner Dance Entertainment. Ms. Bybee, you're up.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is with an agreement for the annual Valentine's Dinner Dance that we do with Caleb Chapman's Crescent Big Band. We've actually, 4 out of the 5 years, we've actually contracted with Caleb to provide the music for the dinner dance that we host. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but Caleb, the Crescent Band is made up of high school students throughout the state that make up, and they're actually renowned, actually nationally. They travel all over. In fact, when I talked to Caleb, he's like, I just need to know if we're for sure going to do this and sign this contract, because if not, we have an invitation to take the kids on this date to Puerto Rico, and we'll go play in Puerto Rico. So anyway, just a great group of kids, extremely talented, and learn a lot from Caleb himself, but an exceptional night, so a lot of fun.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners?
You know, this is a full orchestra, and these high school students are some of the best in the country. It's Tim, it's worth writing about that we have such fantastic Benny Goodman, Stan Kenton, Maynard Ferguson, Count Basie entertainment still existing right here in Ogden, Utah. And it's being perpetuated by this Caleb Chapman, and it's a 16-piece.
No, it's actually 30 piece.
Sorry, a little low, but all the horns, all the woodwinds, it's just phenomenal. It's a really, really great. It's a great feeling in there with a full orchestra.
Yeah.
People get all duded up in their tuxes and their fancy dresses and suits, and Ralph, you ought to come and wheel that chair around and move things around. Yeah, I think you'd love it.
Thanks for the invitation. I'll be there. You and I going.
Well, I'm not dancing with you. Let me be absolutely clear with that.
Okay, you'll see about that.
Yeah, don't jump to conclusions here.
We'll carry two.
All right, anything else? So I'm assuming this is a paid-as-you-go function.
Yes.
What's
yes.
it cost to the
Yes,
public?
it's $80 per couple, and that includes, of course, the dinner and
Nice.
the dance. Yep,
Well.
dancing.
Well worth it with that type of entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes, sir.
if you're so inclined.
Since Harvey asked me, you're paying Harvey, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think you got a date. Go ahead, Commissioner Harvey.
I'll make a motion. We approve the contract by and between Weber County and Caleb Chapman for the Valentine's dance.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Harvey.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Cassie, you have a contract.
Can I
Yep.
ask a question? Can you comment at all on those things like that?
Can you comment on those?
Yeah, like that with the music coming for the Valentine's Day type thing?
No, but you can go offline and get Ms. Bybee to, explain that to you out in the hallway if you'd like.
Well, it was just a suggestion to you guys. Joe McQueen just died, and as you're having this going on, and it's Valentine's, it is Black History Month, could there be something put in there with all acknowledging Joe McQueen? Is all I'm just saying.
We've had Joe McLean play several times at the conference center and the theater
Just
both.
died.
Yes, I realize
Being
that.
Black History Month, if we could try to integrate some minority factor into the Valentine's Day with Chapman.
Well, the following week, we are doing Ragtime, and we're doing that for Black History Month. So you can come and join us there on the 21st and 22nd.
I don't need to be there, I just want Joe McQueen.
Okay.
No, and I think we're all looking forward to Ragtime. So, Ralph, just so we're clear, any of those type of productions and recognition for certain people, our executive staff, Marty, Jennifer, and Cassie at the conference center do a fantastic job. My suggestion is you get with them with your suggestions. And I would say probably 99% chance they already have it covered in one form or another. If not in the past, they will in the future. So appreciate you bringing those up. Okay, thank you, Cassie. Let's go on to item 2, request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Marie Tarbo for the OMT Artistic Director for the 2020 season. Ms. Bybee, back to you.
Yes. So this is the contract for our artistic director with Ogden Musical Theater. And this is Mari Tarbox. We asked her when we first formed 4 years ago, Ogden Musical Theater, we asked her to come on as the artistic director. And we do a contract each year with her for those services that she offers. And this year, we have the full season. So we have Ragtime that's actually happening, here in a couple weeks. But then we have Into the Woods, that's our summer show, our main show. And then we're doing 5 Carols for Christmas again. Then we have 2 master classes in between that. So we have a full season this year.
Perfect. Commissioners?
We're so lucky to have Mari Tarbox, even in our community. This is a talent that's nationally known. Tim, there's another one. Nationally known gal. Her name is hallowed on the streets of New York because of her artistic and her talent and ability. And she's right here in our little community, and she gives of her time very, very freely and for our local community in the arts. And so it'd be an honor when you're ready, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll motion we approve the contract by and between Weber County and Mari Tarbox for the Ogden Musical Theater 2020 season.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Jenkins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Looks like we're on to agenda item 3, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Weber School District to hold the Weber School District Mesa Day at the Golden Spike Center. Mr. Duncan Olson.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yeah, this contract is between us and the Weber School District. It's really just our district rates that we have in place for them to come and hold their Mesa Day. We're excited to continue this tradition that we've been doing with them to help spread the math and science and get these kids excited about it.
Great. Is that the entire district, I'm assuming?
I believe so. Yeah.
Great.
It is.
Questions?
Another great program for the people of Weber County Schools, the youth of Weber County Schools, and I compliment the leaders who put this together every year. It's great. It's a great, fun thing to go see if you haven't ever seen it.
What are the dates on that, Duncan? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Just
I'll
an
get those to
idea?
you.
I mean, then fairly soon?
It's in a couple weeks.
Couple weeks.
I've got that
First part
right
of
here.
March.
It's to be held on April 7th is the
First part of April.
Mesa Day.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments, Commissioners?
I'd make a motion that we approve item G3, the contract between Weber County and Weber School District for Mesa Days.
Thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Jenkins makes a motion, seconded by Commissioner Harvey. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the Weber School District to hold the 2020 STEM Fair at the Golden Spike Event Center. Mr. Olson, you're up again.
Yeah, same type of contract. This is just for their STEM fair. So there's more of the technology implemented into this day at the district. So same thing,
Okay.
district rates.
Yeah, that's great to see the school district take advantage of our asset out there,
Absolutely.
Commissioners. Okay, discussion, questions? Commissioners?
Motion to approve the STEM Fair at the Golden Spike Event Center for 2020.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries, passes. Thank you. Item 5, I don't see Charlotte here.
I'm happy to help present this item.
Okay, let's move on then with request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and the DCO for a professional service agreement for public relations, marketing, and communications consultant for the sheriff's office. Since Charlotte's not here, go ahead.
Charlotte asked if I would be willing to
Yep.
present. She was taking care of some budget issues. So the county currently has an agreement with the DGO group to provide public relations, marketing, and communications services. And they do that on a countywide basis. But as things that have been happening out at the sheriff's office, the sheriff oversees quite a bit, and a lot of the things that he oversees, the public takes a great interest in and would like to know about what is going on. And so I wanted to read this one statement from the contract because I believe it's important to know why we are proposing to add an additional contract between the county and the Sheriff's Office. It says, whereas the Weber County Sheriff's Office has since identified a need for additional public relations services in order to increase transparency, foster public trust, and educate Weber County residents about the ongoing operations of the Sheriff's Office, which include quite a few things: corrections, enforcement, crime scene investigations, homeland security, animal control, the animal shelter, and other support services. The services that DGO would be providing: videography services, photography services, help with production of recruitment materials, crisis communication services, which is a great addition, and then management of social media channels on behalf of the Sheriff's Office, and then developing a public trust campaign, which includes development of a coordination plan with the local press and monthly newsletters to citizens. So this would be a 1-year agreement with an option to extend for an additional 2 years, and we're proposing this to you for consideration and possible approval.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Questions, commissioners?
Question I have, Commissioner Farrar, this is your portfolio.
Yes.
Are you in favor of this? This is $120,000. That's $10,000 a month. That's a pretty hefty contract for these kind of services for the county. Or for the sheriff, I mean, I'm sorry.
For the sheriff.
It would be up to $120,000. It can't be a flat fee according to the RFP that was issued for this. It has to be an itemized billing each month.
Yeah, and that was my understanding too, Commissioner, is that this is a pay-as-you-go basis. It's not a set contract. Is that right?
Correct. It is not a set
Crockett.
monthly amount.
So when this originally was discussed, the numbers that were discussed, 6 months ago, were probably closer to 50 to 60,000.
Well, yeah, that's my recollection.
And so it has grown somewhat since that. I am a believer in the DGO group. I think they do a great job. I would say that we need to make sure that we monitor the results we're getting from this contract at any given month. And the sheriff has promised me that would happen. I do feel that the sheriff has done a good job this last 6 months in transparency and building public trust. He's invited the press to tour the facility on at least one occasion, if not more. I think he's being more public active in terms of the animal shelter, the jail, the things that have caused some controversy the last number of years in this county. So I think, in my opinion, this is a good move. At the same time, we need to verify that we're getting the results that we expect from this contract.
A couple of things I would add in provisions that, because we've also thought about those concerns, Commissioner Jenkins, is one thing that was added to the contract is that a requirement that DGO will develop a benchmark measuring plan to assess and prioritize the needs of the Sheriff's Office that includes project work plans, due dates, key milestones, and other measurable deliverables. That has to be done within the first 6 months of the agreement. As far as the invoicing, we put in a provision that says DGO shall submit invoices on a monthly basis that specifically describe the services performed for which compensation is claimed, and any such other information as may be reasonably required by the county in order to properly review, evaluate, and process the invoice. And then finally, this is an at-will contract. It can be terminated at any time for no cause.
Commissioner Jenkins?
You know, I like to support the sheriff a lot, but when he puts a figure in there of 120 grand, I just can't hardly. I'm choking on it, you know. And I understand. You say, well, it doesn't mean you will use it. Okay, I understand that. I don't know. I have a hard time voting aye on something like this when it's so open-ended. Yeah, it's just that simple. No more
get
than
it.
that.
And from my perspective, and I've been involved with this from discussions with Sheriff and his staff, I have asked for metrics to be put forth, actually the first 30 days of this contract, what they're hoping to accomplish, so that we have some, I hate open-ended contracts without any definition of what we're trying to accomplish, objectives. So I've asked the sheriff to provide me within the first 30 days with DCO the objectives, where they think that the public needs to be informed, and really the duties, potential outcomes of that contract. So, and again, as Mr. Crockett has mentioned, that we can terminate this at will if we don't feel we're getting the result. But I do have faith in the DCO group performing. I do have faith that the Sheriff's Department will come up with objectives that that make sense for the public outreach and the public relations that's so widely needed. Commissioner Harvey, comments, questions?
I'm trying to be thoughtful on this and yet support, but take into consideration the cautions that Commissioner Jenkins has put in there about open-endedness. I know that there's a lot that has to grow and be considered as it relates to our law enforcement, and with especially emergency services. I think the newspaper does a wonderful job getting the word out, but the newspaper can only get that word out on paper the next day. They do have an electronic version, and sometimes breaking news is just that, breaking news, but I don't know if that's the place that most people go to as it relates to that. It's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all the other things that come to that. And that's the strong point of electronic media and the DCO for messaging. I don't know that sheriffs, they're good at what their jobs are. I don't know that that's messaging necessarily. I mean, I know there are some within there that are good at it, but not, they don't do it as a profession. So I'm trying to balance, and it is a lot of money. I'll give you that. I'd like to, I think with what you've said, Commissioner Frohr, I'd probably like to review it again in 90 days, in 3 months, and have a report back. And I'd like to have a report back not just from the sheriff, but also have some measurables, as it's Mr. Crockett stated in the contract, have some direct measurables, and then come back and revisit it. But we've got a lot of really good, because of the two of you, a lot of really good momentum moving forward as it relates to mental health in the jail out there, and the things that we're progressing and trying to be proactive with. And I think that would be great to get that messaging out there. So that's kind of where I'm leaning as it relates to discussion right now.
Thank you for that. Ralph, do you have a comment?
Yes, I have a comment in favor of this, because one of the things with inside of the incidents that's happened locally here lately and everything too, in the minority community, there's been discussion about just this. And we lost a valuable part of our program, which was Anna, and she's been hired by the sheriff program, and it's working to bridge that transparency gap somewhat even more. I just want to speak in favor for this, in that there's been over at the city council and time week after week, we've asked them to be more diligent about having more transparency and helping the sheriff to be able to go ahead and get out there the message of the great work that the officers are doing, the great work that that is happening with inside the sheriff's department itself, the jails, and the different things with the mental health and the things that are going on. I'd like to encourage you to vote yes on this, because it is a valuable part of being able to show that the government, you guys, and a city, and that's interested in having transparency and letting us, the public, to know what is going on. And this is a good thing right here, because it's one of the things I came today for, is to see that you guys have passed this, and let us be able to have an insight into what's going on with the sheriff's department, and the sheriffs be able to communicate with us. Now, I'm blessed because I'm a busybody and I show up to all the meetings, so I know the sheriffs and I can hear all the things. But there are people out there that are in the community that want to know about certain situations, or are upset about certain shootings or certain things that are going on, and they try to tell the other side of what's going on and what have the time limit of what the window that has to be done in this, and would have a better understanding if they had that information. But this right here would provide a way for the sheriff's department to be able to have that and be able to communicate with them. I'm asking you to be able to help these guys by helping and passing this, so that they can speak with the public, that the public can have more of an awareness of what's going on, of the good things that are going on inside the government, sheriffs are doing, and the steps that are being taken by you, the commission, and everything to oversee and make sure that mental health care and all this is being done. It's only, you have to be out there like me. But most people aren't like me, and this is not going to be out there. But if you provide a window for them, and this, we can get that done. So that's what I'd just like to say, that in favor of this.
Thank you, Ralph. So, Commissioners, I'm in favor of this for a couple reasons. Number one, the sheriffs. If you look at the sheriff's budget and where our taxpayers for Weber County goes, the majority, by a good measure, goes to the sheriff's department. And of our budget, the taxpayer dollars, and yet when you talk to the public in general, they probably have a less understanding of what takes place in the sheriff's department, and questioning what takes place in the sheriff's department over everything else we do, because we've been very proactive in getting that message out. So again, I view this as communication with the public for two reasons. Number one, public safety. And right now we know there's an environment across this country of a distrust of public safety. We've seen that with the shootings. And I think anything we can do as a local community to ensure that the public has a trust in our public safety officers makes sense. I think that gives us the ability to get children, high school people involved that have a distrust of public safety from day one, as they see this communication that they haven't seen before in this county, the ability to say, look, these people that are representing, that are driving around in these trucks and cars represent us, they're here to help, not hurt. So I'm a believer that with the controls we have in place with the contract, I've read the contract, we have the ability to monitor it. I agree with Commissioner Harvey's assessment. Maybe even 60 days review would be good. But in my opinion, we should move forward with this, at least in the stages that we can test to see if we are getting the results that we expect from it. So with that, I'm through giving my speech. Look for a motion or comments.
I know that look. I'll make a motion that we approve the contract with the caveat we review in 60 days, as you mentioned, Commissioner Frohr, and we have the metrics of measurement that were described by you, Mr. Crockett, in that presentation.
And you would also have a couple of months' worth of invoices that itemize the services that are being provided. And you have the ability to do this with not only this contract, but the existing contract with the county.
So that being said, I'd like in that formal presentation, or in a work session or this commission meeting, not later than the 1st of May of this year.
Okay, we have that motion. We have the motion as amended with those contingencies, which I fully support. Do we have a second? All right, I'm going to go ahead and second that motion. Seeing that Commissioner Jenkins wants to bow out. All right.
Well, I don't know that he will. I mean, you will watch. He's very. You know, one of the things I appreciate. Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
One of the things I appreciate about both of you, you're both very careful, and your business experience through the past has taught you a lot, and it would be foolish for us to overlook that. So there may be some things that I'm missing here, but I trust you both, and But I also trust the sheriff here, and I trust the DCO group with their messaging, and so I'm willing to give it a shot.
Okay, we have a willing to give it a shot vote, so appreciate that. All right, any discussion? Commissioner Jenkins, your last opportunity.
Yeah, well, the only pushback I'd give here, we met with the sheriff yesterday, and he didn't say a word about this, and so it hits us a little blind. Nobody's here from the sheriff's office to present it today. I can't push back against the sheriff, and it's hard giving oversight when you don't see this. And these are big dollars, $120,000. That's $10,000 a month. That's a big contract. That's not a little contract. That's not a $40,000, $50,000. Let's do this or do that. So until I hear from the sheriff, I'm going to vote against it now. There'll be no hard feelings because I understand you two, and it's Gage, it's your portfolio, and I do understand your desire to support him.
Thank you for those comments.
You bet.
And, I can tell you this, we will trust, but we're going to verify this in the next 60 days, and we'll look at those invoices
You
as
bet.
well. Absolutely.
You bet.
And this contract gives us that ability. If this was a straight-out 120 with no verification, no metric, I'd be in the same camp that you are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that, Commissioner Harvey, any closing remarks on your motion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. It's been approved. Item 6, request for ratification of Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, T-A-P, cooperative agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT, for the Pineview Loop Pathway, 7450 East to Old Snow Basin Road. Mr. Wilkinson, can you explain what this is?
Yes, Commissioners, last year, Weber Pathways was awarded $200,000 from UDOT for a TAP grant. The county matched $100,000 toward that, so there's $300,000 total in funding, and the county had to provide that match in order for the funding to be awarded. That took place in June of last year. We finally actually received the TAP agreement, the actual document from UDOT. It has already been signed. It was signed by Commissioner Harvey a few weeks ago, so we're asking for ratification of that agreement. Everything has already been done and taken care of. We just need formal approval for that ratification.
Questions, Commissioners?
This is so exciting. This is so exciting to see this progress for that up there. It's just wonderful.
Agreed.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins?
Oh, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd make a motion we approve item G6, the TAP grant from the Utah Department of Transportation.
Second.
And we have a second by Commissioner Harvey. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's move now. I think Chris Crockett is going to take this one. Number 7, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Dr. Robert S. Groh for an EMT physician advisor as required by Utah Administrative Code R426-3-700. Mr. Crockett.
Thank you. The county currently has 3 interlocal agreements with Ogden City Fire Department, Roy City Fire, and Weber Fire District to provide paramedic services throughout the county. State statute requires that there be a physician advisor for every emergency medical service program that is out there. The county currently has an agreement with Dr. Groh. This it is time to renew the agreement, and it would be an increase in compensation from $45,000 to $55,000. I'm happy to go over there is a giant list of requirements that Dr. Groh would be required to perform, including helping out with medical education requirements, advising the different districts regarding recommendations to resolve any issues that may arise with patient care, developing protocols. If you want me to expound on that, I'd be happy to. But primarily, this is just a renewal and increasing the compensation to $55,000.
And if I'm not wrong, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that this $55,000 in comparison to comparable counties and what they're paying for it and comparable services is a very good deal for Weber County.
I haven't seen the numbers, so I
Okay.
don't know what that comparison would be.
All right.
But I have read Dr. Groh's qualifications, and they are really
Right.
quite extensive.
I forget who briefed me, but when I had the briefing, it appeared that we were well under what we'd probably pay somebody else with the same credentials.
Mhm.
So, commissioners, questions?
The question I have, Commissioner Farrar, is who negotiated this contract and who sent it to us to be ratified? Because nobody talked to me about it, and you sign up here, and here it is on the agenda, and you've presented it, and I appreciate it, but we don't know really what happened in this negotiation.
These contracts used to be housed with human resources. And so now we're looking for a new home to house those. And it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, that it'll be under the clerk auditor's office in the purchasing department. So our office received a request to draft a renewal to increase the compensation and to update the agreement. That came through Jason Horn. And I believe he had been in communication with Chair Farrar. And so the negotiations that went back and forth between Dr. Groh and the county, that happened a lot through our office. I communicated with him. I have, with the assistance of Brian Barron as well. We looked at the admin code R4263-700, updated those requirements, and put them into the agreement.
So when you negotiated that contract, did you feel that the ask was appropriate?
I actually didn't participate in the financial amount. I just drafted the legal provisions. So I received the amount it was communicated to me through Jason Horn.
I can add a little bit of detail, if
Please.
that's okay, Mr. Chair.
ahead.
Yes, my understanding is that Jason, they spent quite a bit of time going back and forth, and it wasn't just purchasing and the doctor. It was the fire chiefs and those that work with the services. My understanding as well was that the increase, that there hasn't been an increase to this contract amount for about 10 years. So he's been being paid the same amount for quite a bit of time. But there was quite a bit of, my understanding is there was quite a bit of negotiation.
I believe that's who briefed me, was Jason Horn, and he also indicated that the contract had been at the same level for, I think it was 10 years. So, anyway, additional questions?
Commissioners, in my research with the agenda today, I did follow up with some of our public safety folks based on what Dr. Groh has done for the paramedic, with regards to the paramedic fund, and it came with a resounding compliment and recommendation that we continue this.
And I would also add that in these negotiations, when I completed the draft of the legal terms, I also did send that to the 3 districts for their review and approval as well.
Okay, back to the commission for comments or action.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve contract by between Weber County and Dr. Groh for the EMT physician advisor as required by code R426-3-700.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Item H, Commissioner comments. Commissioners,
I'll go one last thing here.
go ahead.
Mr. Vandernack, you've been sitting out in that audience now for nearly 3 years.
That long? Wow.
Nearly 3 years. You saw us the way we deliberated today, live. You can view it later, again, on your favorite video review channel. But we'll leave this meeting today, and we'll be able to communicate again. We'll have great respect for one another. I work in a really, really great place with great people. It's a wonderful time for Weber County. None like I've experienced in my 26 years. And I appreciate not just these two, but all the others that are hanging on that wall over there, and the Sean Wilkinsons and the Sarah Swans and the Marty Smiths. and everyone else that works for them. We have a wonderful team. If only every community were this effective. That's just my opinion, and I choose to keep that right here local. I don't need to go out to the state or national. Boy, but it's working really, really good here, and I'm grateful for our founding fathers for setting up something, I think, divinely created. And those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, very appropriate. Commissioner Jenkins, anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Thank you for that. Tim, yeah, we appreciate you being here. Take the time to give the public an idea of what we do, I think is very important. And I think that I can say that the Standard Examiner, you've done a great job of being fair. You tell the story as it should be told, so the public can make then the determination. You don't, in the past, there's certain papers that look to write stories to basically slant public opinion one way or the other. I don't think that you do that at all. And I think that's great for the public. I think it's good for us. We live and die up here as commissioners on our decisions. But those decisions have to be aired in the public, and the public will be the ones that will make the final determination whether we are doing this job the way they'd like to see it done. But with proper information, they'll make that decision. And I fully trust the public that they will make good decisions as we move forward. So thank you very much.
He's good at his craft. You're good at your craft, Tim.
Good.
Really good.
So we appreciate you.
You know, there is one thing I'd like to say.
Go ahead.
Tim, the article you wrote on our waste was a wonderful article, and you filled the paper with 4 or 5 nice pictures, and you did a good job on that. I thought it was very fair and very informative, and you did. We're getting lots of calls on it, and you did a great job there. I just want you to know that.
Anything else, commissioners?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.